On a chilly June 30th, 1908, in the wilds of Tunguska, Siberia, suddenly, the sky splits open. A dazzling blue beam, brighter than the sun, cuts across the sky. A moment later, a sound like artillery fire echoes through the forest, followed by a deafening explosion. The ground shakes violently, knocking people off their feet hundreds of kilometers away. A searing heat wave sweeps through, so intense that a man 70 kilometers from the epicenter felt his shirt was on fire. This wasn't a scene from a science fiction novel. This was the Tunguska event, one of the most powerful and mysterious explosions in modern history. For over a century, it has baffled scientists and sparked countless theories, from comets and asteroids to more unconventional ideas. For 13 long years, the site of this incredible event remained untouched. The region was incredibly remote, and Russia was soon engulfed by World War I and the Russian Revolution. It wasn't until 1921 that the first scientific expedition, led by a Russian mineralogist named Leonid Kulik, finally set out to find the impact site. Kulik was convinced a giant iron meteorite had crashed to Earth, and he was determined to find it. Getting there was an expedition in itself. Kulik and his team faced brutal Siberian conditions: dense, trackless forests, swarms of mosquitoes, and treacherous swamps. They relied on the accounts of the local Ewenki people, who spoke of a fiery god named Ogdi that had descended from the sky. After years of searching, in 1927, Kulik's team finally reached the heart of the devastation. But what they found was not what they expected. There was no giant crater, no fragments of a massive meteorite. Instead, they discovered a vast, circular area of forest, spanning over 2,000 square kilometers, where an estimated 80 million trees had been flattened. The trees were all pointing away from a central point, like spokes on a gigantic wheel. But at the very center, the so-called telegraph poles, a group of trees stood eerily upright, stripped of their branches and bark, scorched but not fallen. It was a forest of ghosts. Kulik was perplexed. The evidence pointed to a massive aerial explosion, something that detonated high in the atmosphere, not a solid object hitting the ground. The force of this blast was staggering. Scientists now estimate it was about 1,000 times more powerful than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. It released somewhere between 10 and 15 megatons of energy. The seismic shockwaves were registered by observatories as far away as the United Kingdom. For several nights after the event, the sky over Europe and Asia glowed so brightly that people in London could reportedly read a newspaper outside at midnight. What if it wasn't a huge iron meteorite hitting Earth? This is where the real mystery begins, and the theories start to get fascinating. The leading scientific hypothesis today is that the Tunguska event was caused by a stony asteroid or a small comet entering Earth's atmosphere. Let's break that down. An asteroid, about 50 to 100 meters in diameter, would have entered the atmosphere at an incredible speed, perhaps over 50,000 kilometers per hour. The immense pressure and heat generated by its entry would have caused it to completely disintegrate and explode in a massive airburst, about 5 to 10 kilometers above the ground. This would explain the lack of a crater and the pattern of the fallen trees. The blast wave and thermal radiation from this heel-toot explosion would have caused the widespread destruction on the ground. The comet theory is similar. A comet is essentially a dirty snowball of ice, dust, and rock. As it plummeted through the atmosphere, the ice would have rapidly vaporized, leading to a similar catastrophic explosion. This theory also neatly explains why no significant meteorite fragments have ever been found. A comet would have left very little solid evidence behind. It could also explain the reports of the glowing night skies, as ice particles and dust from the comet's tail could have been scattered in the upper atmosphere, reflecting sunlight. For decades, the debate between the asteroid and comet theorists raged on. It looks like recent research is really shaking things up. In 2013, a team of scientists analyzed microscopic rock samples collected from the Tunguska region back in 1978, found traces of minerals like lonsdaleite, a form of carbon that's known to form when a graphite-containing celestial body, like a meteorite, strikes the Earth. This discovery lends strong support to the idea that a stony asteroid, not a comet, was the culprit, But science isn't always neat and tidy, and the Tunguska mystery has been a fertile ground for more speculative and imaginative theories. It's impossible to talk about Tunguska without mentioning them, because they're a huge part of its legacy. One of the most popular alternative theories involves a tiny black hole. The idea is that a primordial black hole, perhaps no bigger than a dust particle but incredibly dense, passed straight through the Earth. It would have created a massive explosion on entry in Siberia and another one on exit, likely in the North Atlantic. While a mind-bending concept, most physicists dismiss this. A black hole passing through the planet would have caused a much more dramatic and observable exit event. And the physics just doesn't quite line up with the evidence. Then there's the antimatter theory. This proposes that a piece of antimatter, the cosmic opposite of regular matter, collided with our atmosphere. When matter and antimatter meet, they annihilate each other in a pure burst of energy, which would certainly explain the massive explosion. The problem: antimatter is incredibly rare in our corner of the universe. The chances of a naturally occurring chunk of it just happening to hit Earth are astronomically small. And, of course, no great mystery is complete without a UFO theory. In the 1940s, a Soviet science fiction writer proposed that the Tunguska event was the explosion of an alien spaceship's nuclear engine. This idea captured the public imagination and has been a staple of UFO lore ever since. Proponents point to the lack of a crater and meteorite fragments as evidence that this was a controlled, or perhaps uncontrolled, technological event. While it makes for a great story, there is zero credible evidence to support the idea of an alien craft. It remains firmly in the realm of science fiction. So, where does that leave us? The overwhelming scientific consensus points to the airburst of a celestial body, most likely a stony asteroid. The evidence from the treefall pattern, the seismic and atmospheric data, and the microscopic mineral samples all converge on this explanation. It's the theory that best fits all the available facts. The Tunguska event serves as a powerful and, frankly, terrifying reminder. Our planet is constantly moving through a cosmic shooting gallery. Objects from space hit our atmosphere all the time, but most are small and burn up harmlessly. Tunguska was different. It was a wake-up call. If an object of that size had exploded over a major city like London, Paris, or New York, the devastation would have been unimaginable, changing the course of human history forever. Today, space agencies around the world are dedicated to planetary defense. Programs like NASA's DART mission, which successfully altered the course of an asteroid, are our first steps in learning how to protect ourselves from a future impact. We are actively scanning the skies, cataloging near-Earth objects, and developing the technology to deflect any that might pose a threat. The story of the Tunguska explosion is a detective story written across a century of scientific inquiry. It began with a flash of light in the Siberian sky and led us to a deeper understanding of our place in the cosmos and the potential dangers that lurk there. From Leonid Kulik's dogged determination to the high-tech analysis of microscopic dust, the quest to solve this mystery shows science at its best. While a few fringe questions may always remain, the ghost of Tunguska has largely been laid to rest. It wasn't aliens, a black hole, or a secret weapon. It was a visitor from space. A random, violent encounter that flattened a forest and left a legacy of awe, mystery, and a crucial lesson for humanity. Thank you for joining us on this journey into one of history's greatest explosions. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more mysteries of our world. Only here on Forgotten Clues.